Here are the characteristics of a binge in a short, sweet segment. Your feelings, the speed of eating, being agitated, a feeling of altered consciousness, like a trance-like state, loss of control and secretiveness. So if you're attaching feelings a lot to the food and you just can't wait, then there's probably a binge. If you're eating really fast, then there's probably a binge. If you're agitated because you're eating, then there's probably a binge. If you feel like you can't control yourself, there's probably a binge. If you feel like you're in a hypnotic trance, there's probably a binge. If you're doing it in secret, there's probably a binge. I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm just telling you like it is.
Oh, j'ai quelques moyens subtils en réserve.
Some of this could get to the extreme. You know, some people start to take food from others, start to steal from stores and eat discarded food. When you just like going through all the crevices and corners in your house and just trying to find that last Twinkie bar, you know something is up. Now, I am not here to talk about anybody's life. I'm here to bring awareness on what the characteristics of binge eating are, okay? So, what is number 4? Number 4 is a feeling of altered consciousness. So some people even describe that in their moments of binge eating, that they feel as if they were in a trance, like a hypnotic trance. Most of us are living in that anyways. And they're like, man, it's almost like my behavior was automatic. And I felt like I was not even eating. It was not me eating. Like I did not eat all this food. I was not even aware I was eating all the food. So in binge eating, sometimes you don't even feel like you're the one doing it. Like, yo, it's the monster in my belly that was eating all this food. So what we're trying to do is we're bringing awareness so that you know what's happening. Because a lot of people are trying to get to a fit body. And now is the time because your life depends on it. But if you're not aware of what's going on with you, then it's hard to make the changes. So what you need is not someone to tell you what to do, but just someone to tell you, hey, here are the facts. Come up to your own conclusion. So you sometimes have a feeling of altered consciousness. This is from a study by Dr. Christopher G. Fairburn, who said that people have reported that they have like a trance-like state. So what a trance-like state means, it means that they're almost not even there. Okay? And the 5th one is the loss of control. Feeling like you lost yourself. Now, let's go back to the feeling of altered consciousness. It's almost like if you're watching television, you're listening to music, you're binge eating while watching Netflix, you're doing two things like you're in a trance state. You know, you don't even know when you're picking it up. You're like, every time something explosive happens, I'm like, okay. And you don't even know what's happening. So you're binge eating by accident. So it's almost like you lost control, okay? So what happens is, over time though, the loss of control can fade away because your experiences can teach you that if you keep eating, and if you keep eating, and if you keep eating, it's gonna be inevitable. It's gonna happen anyways. So what you do is you just don't try to avoid them anymore. So in trying not to avoid them, you lose control. If you forego your ability to choose, you lose control. So what happens is, unless you kind of plan, unless you kind of create an environment, unless you kind of create and foster habits to prevent that from happening, it'll continuously happen. So some people even have to go to the bathroom sometimes to get their food in, the snacks, away from their loved ones or the others, or like maybe have to do it late at night, or I gotta eat in my room, or I gotta do this, do that. Sometimes you have to do it. So I know this because I'm not saying this from a perfect person point of view. I've had times where like I just like would buy all this foods and I'm like, I'm gonna eat it in secret because nobody is supposed to know that the holistic motivator is eating this food. You know what I mean? So this is why I researched this subject and bringing it to you. I'm not bringing anything to you from non-personal experiences. These are things that I've learned that I haven't indulged in forever, but I've learned because of my experiences, and I'm sharing them to you. So sometimes you can feel like you've almost lost control of yourself. But this is why we're bringing awareness to that, so you can change that, all right? So there is also a sense of secrecy when it comes to binge eating. When it comes to binging, not binging Netflix, but binging food, there's a sense of secretiveness, secrecy that comes with binge eating. So if it only happens in secret, then I won't be ashamed and shunned by others. But the self-shame never goes away. You know what I mean? For me, because of my values, when I did binge eating, when I went home and I was depressed, and why I became a mental health speaker, when I went through that experience, I realized, man, what's going on? So I felt ashamed. Nobody else could know about this. Never. So that's how most people feel. You feel ashamed, and it's okay. But right now, we're bringing awareness to all of this. Don't feel bad because I'm talking about it. Just listen and be aware and be woke. So sometimes you might take the food to your bathroom to eat it. That's how you know there's a binge going on. So like I said, here are the characteristics of a binge in a short, sweet segment. Your feelings, the speed of eating, being agitated, a feeling of altered consciousness, like a trance-like state, loss of control and secretiveness. So if you're attaching feelings a lot to the food and you just can't wait, then there's probably a binge. If you're eating really fast, then there's probably a binge. If you're agitated because you're eating, then there's probably a binge. If you feel like you can't control yourself, there's probably a binge. If you feel like you're in a hypnotic trance, there's probably a binge. If you're doing it in secret, there's probably a binge. I'm not saying this is good or bad. I'm just telling you like it is. Like binge eating, let's not let people sugarcoat things. You know what I mean? That's how you get in binge eating in the first place, by sugarcoating your problems. You know what I mean? So when I was in that state of eating too much food, thinking I'm fit and I'll just get rid of it, which is true, I am fit. But I realized that I was depressed and I was anxious and I was lonely. And I felt like a failure. So I understood now when I look back at my old self, I'm compassionate. I understand what I was growing through. But out of that, I'm able to now talk about it and advocate for it. Okay? So now, how do you know that you're binge eating? I just explained to you the 6 characteristics of a binge eat. And I told you that both men and women are equally affected. And that African Americans are affected just as much as Caucasian. And that from 20 to 50, you're at risk. Especially if you're in college because of the calf. The calf. And then half are overweight, which means skinny people binge eat too. All right? So now, binge eating disorder happens from time to time. It does not mean you binge eat all the time. Like when I talked about myself, it did not mean that don't go tell people Ed is a binge eater, okay? Just says he has a binge eat at times. So a person who have a binge eating disorder only have to have a few binge eatings a month. The extreme of that is called bulimia. I could never really spell that word. Bulimia nervosa. If you're just now tuning in, this is all factual information from study that I acquired from this book called Overcoming Binge Eating by Dr. Christopher Fairburn. And because a lot of people don't read, I'm bringing the information to you in videos to make it easier to bring awareness to this. Okay? So, we're going to talk about bulimia nervosa in the next video. In this video, I just shared with you the 6 characteristics of binge eating, how to discover if you are binge eating. I did not give you practical steps to stop. All I did was bring awareness. This is the video that I made for you today. And if it provided value to your life, and if you're watching this on YouTube, comment, share, like. Send it to somebody that you think may have binge eating and just like try to bring awareness to it. Or maybe just share it. If you don't have the guts, then you can just sugarcoat it and just share it. All right. So your health is in your hands. It's up to you what you're going to do for your future. Because a lot of us are not eating to live. We are living to eat. Quote, Dr. George Xavier Love. But it's up to you to start to eat to live, because the corporations and the restaurants and all the fast food places are not looking for your favor. They're looking for your money and your loyalty, not for your good health, but to boost up their pockets. So if you want to live a longer life, take the holistic approach that I've been sharing, that I've been learning along the way. I urge that you go and study different things about you so that you can make the changes necessary to live a longer, more fulfilling life, more energy and everything. Because think about it, your digestive system needs you to help it work. And if you work it too much, it'll stop working. Get what I mean? Now remember this, I'm going to leave you with a final tip. Don't eat between 3 and 6 a.m. That's when your digestion is working. That's the clock of your digestion. And if you disrupt the clock too much, that can be really, really bad. And that's my scare tactic, to scare you into taking control of your life and taking a holistic approach. Is the holistic motivator. Pleasure to serve you. Powerful people. Been a wonderful day. Make sure you like, share, subscribe.